you don't become a man until your father dies. And I believe that. I truly believe that. You don't become a man until your father dies. And that's so true.
You're going to make me cry now.
And that's something which I've grappled with. I'm the eldest of 5 boys. I literally tweeted about this last week, saying, I must be the strongest father, a strongest man at my father's funeral.
I know plenty of guys that they don't have fathers in their lives, right? Either the father has passed away. I do know quite a few. The father's passed away, but they still don't have it in them.
Yeah,
So what's the cause of that?
The cause of lack of charisma.
The lack of majesty. I actually want to talk to you about this because you're a doctor, right? Yeah. So and not to objectify you, but you've got it all going on, right? You've got the looks going on, you've got the height, you've got the build, then you're a doctor. So like on paper you have it all going on, right? But you said to me, if I remember this correctly, you said to me like on the phone, we had this conversation before, and you said like you still kind of feel like masculinity wise, you still feel like there's something missing, or do you feel like no, you've got it all covered and all conquered? How do you feel?
I think masculinity is a journey. It's never a destination.
Okay.
And it's masculinity for me, modern masculinity in the purest sense of the word, like rajula, Arabic word rajula, being a man, manhood, so to speak. It's never something you conquer or conquest. It's always. It's
not something you become.
No, exactly. It's a process of refinement.
Okay.
So for me, I think I'm on the journey of that, of self-actualization. I think you have to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the apex of that triangle. So you got the basic survival needs: shelter, food, medicine, warmth. And at the top is self-actualization. For me, you'll never reach that, but you got to aim for that, if you know what I mean. You'll never reach the summit of that, but you always have to aim for that.
Okay.
Once you aim for that, you'll always have a purpose to wake up. Once you reach that, like athletes when they win a gold medal or something.
They want the next one.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of the time, though, especially when I was working in sports medicine, they'd hit a period of depression because they've achieve what they set out to achieve,
and they haven't got something to look forward to.
So you'd see them crying in the dressing room. Literally, I've seen it. They'd win a gold medal, 100-meter race.
I guess you probably can't mention names.
I can't mention names.
Give me like a really specific example though.
Okay, a really specific example is Sydney Olympics. So that was year 2000.
You went all the way down.
No, I didn't go, but it's just a story for us. Sydney Olympics.
Okay.
So there's quite a few British athletes actually. They won their long distance races.
Okay.
And they were crying in the dressing room. Boxers,
despite winning gold.
Yeah, exactly. They won it, but they're like, okay, now it's existential pain that hits them. So now I've won it. Ostensibly, I've done what I set out to do. A lot of boxers become depressed after winning a world title. Great example: Tyson Fury, Mike Tyson. So many people, these are modern examples. They go into bouts of severe depression, although they're the best in the world, because their aim was to become the best. Now they've achieved that aim.
There's no other aim.
Exactly, because
become purposeless.
Yeah, absolutely. So what gives you happiness is purpose. And this is why Islam is so important for me. Islam gives me a purpose. Even if I'm lacking a worldly purpose, I've got an otherworldly purpose. Okay. And that is achieving...
Let's talk about more than... say that word for me again. Rajula.
Yeah.
I know it comes from Jalal, right? The attribute of Allah is Jalal, which is majesty. Mm-hmm. But what does the word majesty mean to you?
Majesty. Jalal, yeah. So we... glorify Allah by saying Zul Jalali wal Ikram. So Jalal, lofted and majestic.
What does the word majestic mean to you? I'll tell you what it means to me in a second, but you tell me what it means to you.
It's a good word. When I look at majesty, I will never... It's not something which I see now. I associate majesty, my connotations of the word is like Mughal era, majesty, nice clothes, regal, wearing... not chandeliers, but you're wearing all these ornaments and being ornate. This is majestic, your setup.
A little bit. Not the wide setup, not with the stairs over there.
I think it's majestic, yeah. Like now we've got His Majesty.
Yeah.
King Charles. His Majesty.
Yeah. What does that mean though?
Majestic means something regal. Kingly.
Yeah, but what? Yeah, I'm saying I'm pressing you for a reason, right? I'm trying to get right to the essence of it. I'm pressing you for a reason because what's the difference between? So you not to get like overly like what do you call it? I don't want to get overly crude about it, But if you go back to ancient times, the difference between a pauper and a king, right? You can dress the pauper in the same. You must have seen this movie, The Prince and the Pauper, for example. It was a very famous old film.
Right, okay.
It's right. In fact, that's probably a little bit before your time.
Yeah.
It was before my time as well, but they were doing repeats. But you can dress. You don't see this in modern movies, I don't think. But you can dress like a you would in that movie, for example, you can dress the pauper in the same clothes as the king, or the prince, but the people can still tell the differences because the way the prince carries himself.
Very true.
Right? And there's a really good example. There's a really good example of this in a movie. Have you seen Gajni?
Yeah, Amir Khan.
Yeah, Amir Khan.
When he gets jacked.
Yeah. But I don't know if you remember the scene.
He gets a head injury or something, doesn't he?
Yeah. I don't know if you remember the scene. There's a scene where the girl, she's got to go to a charity do because of work. And she's told him that, Sanjay Singhania is supposed to be like this big CEO, big guy and everything. And she's like, I know he's my boyfriend. I know Sanjay Singhania, but she doesn't. She's just told a lie at work to impress them. And now all of a sudden they're like, you have to bring him to our charity do for work. So she's trying to get hold of another guy to pretend to be Sanjay Singhania, right? So she puts a suit on him. She's training him up. And he just doesn't have the charisma. He doesn't have the body language.
Yes.
And it just doesn't work. And then Amir Khan, who is Sanjay Singhania, but she doesn't know, because she's right. So he comes in and he wears the same jacket, and immediately this guy's the CEO.
Yeah. It's the aura, isn't it?
It's the aura, yeah.
And again, it goes back to something about mindset. So poverty and wealth is not material. It's a mindset. So this is why I'm so big on mindset coaching.
Right.
A lot of guys say to me, I want to get in shape.
Yeah.
I'm like, coming in shape is number 3 in your priorities, getting in shape. The first thing is strengthen your mindset. Get your mindset in shape.
Okay, how do you do that though?
Okay, so it goes back to trying to become someone, and they say fake it till you make it. But I'll say, don't fake it till you make it. Become the person right now. So, for instance, when I was growing up, big sports fan, boxing. I'm from Sheffield, so big boxing city, Nassim Hamed, and all these guys. Yeah. And I've always been in shape because I'm like, look, would Nassim do this? Would Kell Brook do this? Would Johnny Nelson do this? And then you almost imitate them and say, would they do this? Would they actually go out and eat chicken, whatever, doner and
shawarma and
stuff,
exactly.
No, they wouldn't. So if you want to be like them physically, emulate their mindset right now. So for me, it's actually, almost embedding, imprinting their lifestyle into yours straight away. It's what James Clear says in Atomic Habits. Yeah. He says, always ask yourself, will a person with a six-pack do this? Will a person like Gajini, that great shape, would he do this? And you always ask yourself these questions, and you'll know the answer for yourself. If they wouldn't do it, then you don't do it as well.
Yeah, it's hard though. We've had a lot of very similar experiences, but you and I both know we haven't been taught this.
We haven't been taught this, and that's something I teach at the University of Masculinity. Yeah. Teaching things your father didn't teach you. Yeah. How to dress, how to speak, how to...
You always tell me off like, don't get overly excited. Don't get overly childish. Don't, sit properly. He's been telling me all of these things, but for whatever reason, it hasn't filtered through.
But can you, a question for you, or it's more of a rhetorical question, is can you pass down charisma? Can you teach someone charisma?
No, I don't think you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
You can't, yeah. So
it's not that I don't have. I have a charisma of, and not to be self-aggrandizing. I have a charisma of my own, but it's not.
Absolutely.
It's not that.
Yeah,
it's a different kind. It's not that. I want what he's got. I want that.
I think yours. Having met you today and spoken to you on the phone and seen your content, you've got a very nice, polished corporate charisma. It's nice. It's like a more, refined version of your dad's.
It's more like an intellectual thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more of this guy's an intellectual, or this guy's basically. But what my dad's got, like the rugged thing going on.
Yeah, the raw charisma.
He's got the you don't like. I've constantly noticed this with my father, right? And I'm only sharing these examples because you'll have seen them as well. I remember once I went to Turkey, these guys, they'd met my dad beforehand, they'd met him and everything, and they behaved a very certain way around my father, right? And not to compare, but I have the same level. I probably have, in some ways, I have more religiosity than my dad, right? In a lot of ways, and that's not to belittle my father in any way or anything like that. But I noticed that there were certain things that they didn't do around my father. right? There's certain lack of religiosity, certain lack of conservative behavior and all this. I went there a month later.
Yeah.
They were being loose, they're everything. I just literally just turned up and they were behaving a particular way. And as soon as my dad's name got mentioned,
Yes. Yeah, straight up.
just all straight and straightened up. And I'm like, that's a thing that I don't have. And I don't want to have it because I want to go around whacking everybody on the head.
Yeah.
I just don't. He's not getting mistreated. I just don't want to be mistreated. But whatever it is that he has, I don't have that.
But also, I think that's something, and I completely get that. And my father's the same. And I think it's something that that gets built up over time. And they say, you don't become a man until your father dies. And I believe that. I truly believe that. You don't become a man until your father dies. And that's so true.
You're going to make me cry now.
And it's something which I've grappled with. I'm the eldest of 5 boys. And I literally tweeted about this last week, saying, I must be the strongest father, a strongest man at my father's funeral. I must be that strongest guy. I've got 5 younger siblings, 4 younger brothers, of them 4 brothers. I must be there. And as a doctor, they're going to expect me to wash and shroud.
Stand up and
I do it all the time, even in our community. If there's a death, because I'm a doctor, they say, wash. Can you help wash the body because you know how to manipulate the body, etc. And all that stuff. So obviously, for my father, that'll be the case. If the natural order. We never know when death is.
Yeah.
We could get hit by a bus tomorrow. You never know.
Yeah.
But if the natural order prevails, exactly. It's your grandfather died and your father dies, and then your sons bury you, and it's subhanAllah, this is the natural order of the universe, or of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they say you don't become a man until your father dies, and this can also be attributed to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He grew up without a father. He didn't meet his father. He was 6 months.
I think he was 6 months. Or was he 5?
No, 5 was his mother. Yeah, so 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
Or maybe even before he was 1, I'm not sure. Or maybe Amina, his mother.
But it was very early.
Very early, yeah.
He didn't really have a relationship
exactly.
with his father.
And his paternal uncle became like a father figure to him, Abu Talib. A grandfather, then his uncle. So, and they say he had to become a man very early on. Because he didn't have a father growing up. And this charisma you talk about, it's very important because my father has it and I can't put my finger on it. I'm like, me and you both worked in London, corporate, we've done corporate events and corporate speaking.
And we've grown up in the same cities.
Yeah, exactly.
Predominantly.
Absolutely. But our father...
It's missing from us.
It's missing from us. And you're right, it's that.
But I know loads of boys, and I know plenty of guys that they don't have fathers in their lives. Right, either the father has passed away. I do know quite a few. The father's passed away, or and this is not to take from what you're saying. Yeah. I'm just giving you my observation. The fathers have passed away, or the fathers are no longer in the picture, but they still don't have it in them.
Yeah,
so what's the cause of that?
The cause of lack of charisma,
the lack of majesty. Majesty and charisma. There is a difference in majesty and charisma, I would say.
Okay, I think
because something that's charisma, somebody that's charismatic, it's almost that person has a bit of a shine to them.
Yeah.
But majesty is almost like you don't mess with that person. Almost.
Yeah.
You don't misbehave with that person. You don't become loose with that person. I think that's just my.
I get that, but I don't like using the word majesty, and even when it's...
But that's what Rijal means. Jalal, and Rijal comes from that root.
Okay.
That's where it comes from.
Okay. Because majesty for me...
And Ibn Arabi talks about it. Ibn Arabi talks about majesty and beauty.
Okay. Yeah,
so,
beauty,
and he says Allah has majesty and Allah has beauty. And then they're like mirrors of each other.
Interesting,
So my sheikh's always taught me, and there's actually a book that's been written. I don't remember the exact history of this book now, but there was a very prominent sheikh in Morocco, and he wrote a book.
Okay,
this was 200 years ago. And he wrote this book in Arabic.
Yeah,
and then it wasn't translated until about I think 10 or 20 years ago, and it was never copied. It was only taught in that masjid.
Right.
And the book was called The Meaning of Man, and many shiuch have said that after like the Quran and the stuff that comes from directly from Allah and the prophets and everything, in terms of the transformation of man, said this book is the most important book that's ever been written. It's called The Meaning of Man.
I need to read this.
Yes, but I've got the book. The problem is the way that the book has been translated.
Yeah.
It's too difficult to understand. I've tried reading it.
That's a job for you, Khodam. You should translate that book.
I don't speak Arabic.
because yeah, but you know what? If anyone can do it, you can do it. Because you've written the book, Billion Dollar Muslim. Big props to you for that.
Thank you.
And you're from Nottingham. Big shout out to Dr. Musharraf. He's translated the Quran into English a couple of times.
Well, we might have to get him to translate this book.
Absolutely.
We might have to get him to do it.
I literally tweeted about this about an hour ago.
Yeah.
Before I set off, I tweeted the same thing about the Quran being transformative. Because I saw a video recently saying the amount of inmates who are converting to Islam is astronomical. Latinas in America, Afro-Caribbean in the UK, white, Caucasians in the UK converting to Islam en masse because of the transformative nature of the Quran. The Bible's given to them, the Quran's given to them in prison freely. You can take religious books with you, and you can,
It's transformative.
and they're transformative. Quran is transformative because it is hard hitting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not beat around the bush. It's direct but poetic. It's beautiful.
That's Majesty.
Majesty, exactly. The way he's talked. Going back to Majesty,
I can tell you a little bit more about this book if you want.
This book is great, by the way. Okay. Yeah, no, I want to learn about it.
Let me just tell you a little bit more, and then you respond. But basically, in the book, it's called The Meaning of Man, and this book, like the entire book, near enough. I've only read bits of it, and my sheikh had to give me running commentary on it on the book, right? So he explained some of it to me, and it was mind blowing. And like he explained something to me, it took me a week to understand that. It's that intense. But the entire book just talks about majesty and beauty. That's all it talks about. And it talks about like beauty is like being gathered to something. So when we say we're gathered to something, like the child is gathered to his mother, the mother seems beautiful to him. So he wants her, he needs her. Majesty is like having separation. I'm not in need of you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the king.
Yes.
The king doesn't need you, but the Pope needs the king. Yeah. That's why the Pope is full of need. That's why he's all like, he's clinging to everything. The king is like, I'm without need, I'm without want. So that's why he has the majesty. And I think the difference between, I don't know what the difference is between our parents and us, but I think us guys, our generation, I think we've become more needy. I don't know why we have, but I think we have.
It goes back to masculinity, simping. You know the phenomenon of simping.
Yeah.
Where men men pedestalized women, simping.
Yeah.
And
I think their generation didn't do that.
Exactly. Their generation were men.
Not putting people on pedestals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But why is our generation doing it?
I can explain it medically, by the way.
Go on. Explain it medically.
Men's testosterone levels have been declining.
Yeah.
Since the last 30-40 years.
It's very interesting you say that, because it's so funny, because the last doctor that I had on was also called Dr. Munaf, and she said the same thing. She said the exact same thing as testosterone.
It's true. It's true. And men's testosterone has been declining. And this is a hormone Allah's given us to make us manly. Allah's given women estrogen and prolactin to make them womanly. That's decreasing in women. But their testosterone is increasing. Men's estrogen is increasing, and our testosterone is decreasing.
What's the fix?
The fix is eat well, sleep well, spiritual diseases, cleanse yourself, envy.
That affects testosterone as well.
Of course. Yeah. If you're envious and you're not sleeping at night, you're anxious because someone's got this nice car, or someone looks a certain way, someone's married a beautiful woman, and whatever, there's so much jealousy. Say, MashaAllah, and may Allah bless it, and say, may Allah increase you, but also may Allah give me the same. Envy is when you don't want the person to have it. You want to have it, but you don't want the person to have it as well. Envy is bad. Envy is bad, and this is a spiritual disease. And I always say, you can tell someone's envious because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes the nur from their face. And this goes back to spirituality. In Morocco, I had a chap on my podcast a few months ago. If you type in Men of God, podcast, I did a called Men of God, about this. He's a Moroccan guy, went to Senegal, West Africa, and he meet these guys, and they have nur on their face. Nur is enlightenment. But it's more than that. It's, a resplendent...
Being free of...
Yeah, exactly. Being free of validation. Yeah. And people are seeking validation. But spiritual diseases... There's actually a guy not far from me in Leicester. He wrote a book about spiritual diseases and how to remedy them. It's a book online. I think it came out last year.
Okay.
And every person, man, woman, or child, Muslim or non-Muslim, should read this. because they affect everyone. Lust, greed, envy,
I
enmity.
think envy is massive.
Oh, envy, and in our community, Asian community.
Yeah, I know, especially amongst men.
Yeah.
But we hide it. I think we mask
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
We hide it. As all of us men, we kind of hide it.
Yeah.
Like, the one thing in me that is very different to others, it's really funny. So I agree, I noticed this growing up. If one guy met another guy that was good looking, the good-looking guy got bullied by all the non-good-looking guys. To be crude about it, the non-good-looking guys, right? I was the only person that didn't have this going on. If
You're a good-looking guy, mashallah.
yeah, thank you. But
Sorry.
I can appreciate. I mean, you're like proper. I mean, you're like a proper Bollywood movie star. But I think I suspect you probably get a lot of men that are envious of you. I'm one. When I've got you sitting across from me, I admire it.
Thank
I
you, bro.
suspect there's a lot of other guys who would meet somebody like you. For them, it would be. I think it would bring out a lot of envy in them.
Fragile masculinity,
Yeah.
where they.
But it's very rare for somebody like me to not to not be not feel insecure about it.
That's good,
You
and
know.
that's the way we should be. You know, having a heart cleanse, because everything from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, everything is from Him.
But how do you? Let me ask you this question: how do you feel when another guy compliments you on how you look? How does it make you feel?
Depends where it's coming from. With
Okay.
you, I know it's coming from
A genuine place.
sincerity. Yeah,
Okay.
I know that. When it depends on tone.
Okay.
And a lot of guys won't compliment you.
Yeah.
And
They
a lot.
deliberately try and break you down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I've become so strong now because I know. Look, beauty.
Yeah.
Firstly, it's not from you. It's
Yeah.
from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala.
Yeah.
And secondly, it can become a test for you, like Yusuf al-Islam.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
don't take it too seriously.
Okay.
It's from look
Because
at
it's ephemeral as well. isn't it?
exactly. It's
Yeah.
from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala.
Yeah.
My skin, your skin. We're gonna get eaten by the same maggots.
Yeah.
Maggots don't care. You know, the maggots
Yeah.
in 50 years time or 5 years time, they don't care. They're gonna eat us the same. So I don't really care. Like obviously, it's good. It's going back to Majesty, by the way. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala equally is beautiful
Yeah.
and loves beauty.
Yeah.
You know, it's a hadith. Wahubbu Jamal. I don't know the first part, but it says Allah is beautiful and Allah loves beauty. So of course, dress yourself nicely, groom yourself, because Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the greatest man of all time, was the most well groomed, by the way.
Yeah.
Groomed, oil on his beard, sometimes had braids, put the gold in his eyes, smelt nice, nice pearly white teeth. He was the most handsome man of his time and of all time. So grooming, we should take pride in it. But don't worship it. Don't worship your physique, etc. Be in good shape, because your body is an amanat. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
It's a vessel for your soul. It's a chamber for your soul. It's a vehicle for your soul. Your body is a vehicle to get you to the next life, and it harbors your soul. But don't worship your body. But but absolutely be in good shape.
Take care of it,
Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was in good shape.
Yeah.
He never had a belly. He fasted for many days. They said he had broad shoulders. He was a medium height, medium build. He had broad shoulders, no belly. Was a strong man. So be in physically good shape. But the thing is, then we have this worship of self. We mentioned this off air.
Yeah.
Narcissism. And who was Narcissus? He was this Greek, Greek mythology. Narcissus fell in love with his own shadow, in his own reflection in the river.
Yeah.
He fell in love with it.
Yeah.
So don't fall in love with yourself, because it can get taken away from you anytime.
I know a couple of guys who are also probably not on your level, but they're good looking guys. They've got tall. They've got the broad shoulder thing going on, right? They've got the whole thing going on, and it's a couple of guys where I've had this, and I've complimented them genuinely and sincerely. They've hated it. They've actually adversely reacted to it.
Yeah.
And I find that to be so telling.
Yeah, I think that could be insecurity on their part. But the thing is, we all age. MashaAllah, you've aged incredibly well. Alhamdulillah. Like I was really.
I've still got.
You got. Inshallah, Allah give unto you life.
I've got a Chinese medicine doctor looking after me. That's why.
Have you actually?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because my grandfather had a
acupuncture. I've got acupuncture. I basically to be not to discredit you anyway, but I've stopped all mainstream medicine.
Should do. I agree.
I've moved away from medicine.
It's poison. Pills are poison, and this is what I say to my patients: pills are poison.
So then, what do you do then?
So I always practice holistic medicine.
Okay.
So we've got a company called Blueprint Inc.
Right.
Blueprint Inc.
Yeah.
We help CEOs optimize their well-being.
But so you're not doing it with like pills or anything?
No,
then?
no pills.
Oh, right.
So if you look at my LinkedIn,
Okay.
transformation without tablets and therapy.
Oh, I see. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, without.
I thought you were very kind of mainstream because you
No.
mentioned sports medicine and
Yeah,
everything.
so-
I thought you were like very mainstream.
No. So sports medicine is more for the elite psychology mindset.
okay.
I understand elite mindset.
Oh right.
So no, I'm
My
again.
my respect level for you is just bumped up like
Thank
2
you.
notches.
Thank you, brother. Black coffee, fasting, prayer, meditation, cumin, black seed oil.
Yeah.
All these things.
Right.
And honey,
Okay.
dates, hijama.
Yeah. So I've basically, I'll tell you what I've done. I haven't been to a GP since 2008.
I like that.
Okay.
Because why? They're all out of shape and like they're all
Yeah.
they're all pre-diabetic themselves. Why
Yes.
would you go to someone?
So I haven't been to a GP since 2008. I haven't had a paracetamol, I think, since probably 2017.
Yeah.
Even if I get a storming headache, I won't take.
Mashallah.
Probably maybe 2018 when I was really desperate, a nasty headache. I haven't taken any vitamin supplements, chemicals, or anything since probably about 2018. Then I've done a lot of walking, but I don't do running and weight training. And then I've done qigong. And then what else have I done? And then I've had herbs and acupuncture.
Good.
And between all of those things, that's probably what's doing it. I think the thing that's done it the most is actually chaga mushroom is what's done it the most. I think it was chaga mushroom that apparently when I started taking chaga mushroom, I think I took it for about 6 months.
Okay.
And that's when people started saying it. Actually, no, there were 2 stages when people started saying it to me quite a bit. There was one stage where I started taking black seed oil, but I've stopped taking black seed oil because it's very heating, and I've got a lot of heat in my body. I need to cool it down. So black seed oil, I think was people said then. Then I started taking chaga, which is also heating. So that's why I've stopped taking it because I need cooling stuff, right? Chaga mushroom is when people said it, and then qigong.
Qigong.
After the qigong. Qigong, I love qigong. You know qigong, because you and I have got very similar ancestry, which is like this Pathan, Greek, and maybe some Chinese ancestry.
Yeah.
Because the mountains like Hunza Valley and
Hunza
Valley.
Gilgit, Baltistan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Shilajit and all these things come from there.
Yeah. So I'm taking the honey at the moment that comes from there. It's called. You must have heard of mad honey.
No, I've not heard of it.
Joe Rogan, all these guys have been talking
because
about
I know
it.
Manuka honey, and Asal from Yemen.
Okay.
Yemeni honey.
Yeah.
Sidr from forgot the name.
So this honey comes from the rhododendron plant, and you have to go right high up in the cliffs. It's very dangerous for them. They have to climb up the cliffs and to get hold of this honey, and it has the largest bees in the world that pollinate this plant.
Where is this?
It's in the Nepalese mountains in the Himalayas, and apparently those bees are like the friend. Even though they're the biggest bees and the kind of the most dangerous bees, they're actually the most friendliest bees in the world. Apparently,
amazing.
I'm not sure how true that is, but I've heard this.
And it's so beautiful how Allah Subhanahu wa Taala said in the Quran, He told the bees to go to the mountains.
Yeah,
and these are the mountains. Subhanallah.
Yeah.
A real dietary hack.
Yeah.
Biohacking. I don't like the word biohacking. I prefer bio-optimisation.
Okay.
Hacking means, like you're cheating or glitching. It's not cheating because these have been done for thousands of years.
Because it's like a loaded term, like cyber hacking.
Yeah, exactly. Cyber hacking and even ethical hacking. I don't like that word.
Yeah.
So I like the word bio-optimization.
Yeah.
And that's what we do at Blueprint Inc. We actually bio-optimize CEOs.
Yeah.
And, that's what it's about, optimization. If you're running at 3 out of 10, let's get you to 8 out of 10. So we optimize their sleep, their health, their diet. But going back to a real, a hack, so to speak, Peruvian chocolate. Honestly,
I think my wife would like to hear about this.
Yeah. Peruvian dark chocolate.
What does that do?
It's like 85 in the I think it's the Andes mountain range.
Right.
I'm not sure. I've not been to South America, so I don't know the geography.
Okay.
I think it's the Andes, Peruvian cacao. Raw cacao, best in the world. And Ross Edgley, who's actually a local lad, he's from Loughborough or Grantham, I think, but he works in Loughborough. He's written a book called The World's Fittest Book. So I recommend all your viewers and listeners to
check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Ross Edgley.
Okay, but what does this chocolate do?
So he has one every day.
Yeah.
And make it, if you don't like hot chocolate that's quite dark, have it in make hot chocolate from it.
Okay.
So hot chocolate or make a mocha, when you get, which is interesting, by the way, mocha comes from the Arabic word in Yemen.
Okay.
So you can make mocha where you mix chocolate and coffee. So you just put the coffee in hot water on there and the chocolate will melt. It's very bitter. But yeah, Peruvian chocolate, I can get it from Waitrose and these things. It's amazing. This is it's got very high amounts of polyphenols and tannins and all these things for good for the skin. And
good for the prostate.
Absolutely. And I can say to the listeners, well, to the viewers, sorry, Khurram looks young on camera. He's even younger looking in real life, mashallah. And I genuinely thought, hand on heart, you were my age. Sorry.
No,
knocked about 10
I'm well
years,
into my 40s.
and knocked about 10 years off your age. And again, it shows, because I tweeted yesterday, or maybe yesterday. By the way, Dr. Asif Official for tweets. It's not even. I just have my stream of consciousness and just tweet anything that comes to my mind. It's like my journaling.
I'm gonna get my wife on this chocolate because my wife loves chocolate. I'm gonna get her on this.
Peruvian chocolate, best in the world. So if you want good coffee,
so you just melt it.
Yeah, so
she can just melt it in a pan because my wife has a hot chocolate every night.
Okay, so
and you know I can't. I can't have this conversation like, can you stop eating chocolate? This conversation is not going to happen.
No.
So I might as well just give her a chocolate that's good for her.
Exactly, it's not going to happen. So her soft spot is chocolate, but give her your anniversary was last week, by the way, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
No, it was a birthday.
Oh, birthday. Sorry.
Yeah, I should have given it a then. I didn't know.
So there's some couple of good brands you can find on Amazon.
So you can get it from M&S.
Yeah, you can. I'm not sure. I know Waitrose do it, and so if you go to some coffee shops, by the way, Peruvian chocolate, but also it's the same. It's similar to like Ecuadorian, Chilean, because it's the same mountain range.
Right.
It's cacao, which is in this mountain range.
Yeah.
And 85%, 90%. And what you do, I've got a coffee machine at home.
Okay.
I get a piece of dark chocolate, and the espresso, pours out, and the chocolate melts.
Okay.
And then so I get the chocolate, very dark chocolate, and the coffee.
Okay.
Put a bit of milk in there.
Yeah.
So I've got a mocha.
Okay.
But if she likes dark chocolate,
but tell me more about like these, because I know a little bit because I the way that I look at herbs and what plants do, I kind of look at them in terms of like hot, cold, the astringent, pungent, that kind of stuff. But tell me what do like tannins, polyphenols, what do these things do to the body?
Okay, so they're very good because I always look at bio-optimisation.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are antioxidants. They clean up free radicals.
Okay.
Our body's in a constant inflamed state.
Yeah.
We are inflamed.
Yeah.
In our joints ache.
Yeah.
Our
So in Chinese medicine, it would be called heat, you see.
Heat, exactly. Inflammation. And that is heat, but in medicine as well, you know. So we can measure inflammation in medicine by something called a CRP, C-reactive protein. You might have heard of it.
Yes.
Or ESR.
Yeah. I need one of these blood tests. Can you arrange me one?
I can do it. We know that's something we do. So we do CRPs and ESRs on all our corporate CEOs, C-suite level people, and they're inflamed. They got carrying a bit excess weight. Their body's aching. I hate to use the word, but they've aged like milk. They should be aging like fine wine, like you, mashallah, but they're aging like milk.
Okay.
Why are they aging like milk? Because if you leave milk out, it ages. It just goes,
Very fast.
yeah, very fast, just ages.
Yeah.
Milk shouldn't age. Sorry, we shouldn't
expire so quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Basic sugars in there that attract bacteria, etc. You know, the lactose and all that stuff. Wine, although we don't drink it, or let's say olive oil, it doesn't age. You can leave olive oil for 20 years; it doesn't age. We should be aging like this. And in Japan, which has got the highest rate of centenarians, I don't know what they call 100 people that live 100, more than 100. Centenarians,
yeah.
They live more than 100.
Yeah.
Japan has the highest concentration in the world, and these people have nice diets. They do a lot of Tai Chi and in the morning meditate, communal living, and they've got that nice positive energy, eating together. And I did a podcast about this: just eat together, communally.
Oh, the thing that the one thing that annoys me, it actually upsets me. One of the things that upsets me the most about now our generation, because I know I'm a little bit older than you, but I've the generation that kind of follows through. All of us. The one thing that really, really upsets me is the concept of eating together has disappeared. It's completely disappeared. Like the wife she'll eat when she's hungry. Yeah. She's coming home late from work, and the guy will eat when he's hungry. And then they only eat together when they go out
for weddings and these events or
weddings. But even at weddings, you'll notice one's eating, the other one's not eating, and all this. But like they'll only really eat together when they go to a restaurant.
Yes,
because they want to experience the chocolate fudge together or whatever. That's the only time they eat together. But they're not. Nobody. I've noticed a lot of now. Anybody that's not our parents' generation, they're not eating together.
They don't eat together
at all.
They say eat together, stay together. And there's actually a very good book called Never Eat Alone. Because when you eat alone...
Who was that? That was... I forgot his name.
Can't remember. I think he's a doctor or something.
Yeah.
But he talks about when you eat alone, your life expectancy shortens. And we've always eaten together. Yeah. And
especially as Muslims.
Yeah, it's called barka.
Yeah.
Barka.
You feed people. You know what I've done with a couple of my friends, what I've done. And this is just being silly. I've literally got the teaspoon and put it in their mouths. like literally like fed them. But like, oh, you only build that thing.
You know, my father and his friends, whenever they go to weddings, they make something called juri, where they get all the bread together.
Okay.
And you know, the curry.
Okay.
They put it all together and eat 5-6 of them.
Oh, all out of one dish.
Yeah, one dish.
I know. There's some Sufi circles in the UK where they do that as well.
I like that.
Yeah, you know, you can go to like the mosque in Norwich, for example, and they'll get like a big dish of rice.
Yeah.
And then they'll have bits of meats in there, and then you get like 20 spoons, and then everybody just eats from their thing.
Even better with hands.
Yeah.
You know, Saudi Arabia and all
Yeah,
these places,
yeah.
Yemen, and they eat together. They communally share. So if you go to Saudi, they have the biryani and all this, and it's just one big plate. I
Yeah.
love it. Like, even in Sheffield, we've got quite a few Yemeni restaurants.
Yeah.
And instead of ordering 3 dishes,
You just have the one dish.
Yeah, one big dish.
Because the thing is, we're living an individualistic lifestyle, you know. I know, like, my dad always used to say to me, eat from your side of the plate. And when it wasn't until I got older that I realized that's not what the hadith is about. Because you're not supposed to have your own plate. You're supposed to have one plate, and then you eat from your side on the large. That's what the hadith is referring to.
Exactly, absolutely.
And because don't be selfish, don't encroach on somebody else, basically.
And food tastes better when eaten together. And again,
it tastes better when you eat with your hands as well.
Absolutely. And you know why? Medically speaking, because you got more dopamine being released because it's a social bonding. We're just social animals. It's
all gone.
It's all gone.
It upsets me.
What's worse is eating. And I did this when I was working as a doctor. Finish a shift. You know, I'd have my sandwich, the one from the morning. I'll have it on the way back home because I didn't get a chance. Didn't get a chance to pray. Didn't get a chance to go to the toilet. Didn't get a chance to eat 12 hours. NHS, just working, patients. And I'll eat the same sandwich on the way back home. I'm like, this is supposed to be my lunch. So, and that is so damaging. You're not eating communally. You're scoffing it down, getting reflux. We're supposed to eat as communal beings, eat together. We're supposed to eat socially.
You know, the thing that used to upset me about Ramadan in London the most was London speaks a lot about community, but it's just superficial
It's
conversation.
fast-paced.
The sense of community isn't actually there.
Yeah.
And because it was just me and my wife in the flat, and maybe she's at work, or it's the time of the month or whatever, I would find myself doing iftar on my own. 80% of the month I would do iftar on my own.
That's not good.
And it just was horrible.
The spirit of Ramadan is gone because Ramadan is all about praying together at night.
And then if you're living in a house, maybe other people are not fasting because they're older, so they're not. The fasting is not prescribed, or whatever, or any of these things. And you find yourself just eating on your own at iftar time, and it's just the spirit's just gone from that.
Families,
but this thing about the communal eating thing.
Yeah.
I might, if you speak to a lot, obviously you know this. You speak to a lot of parents that say kids just don't eat. They just don't eat. You always hear this. Boys, they just don't eat. They just grow up on air. And my son wasn't eating as well. And the way that I got him to start eating, I made it like a communal thing.
Yeah.
Like, for now, I don't care about what he's eating. I want to get him into the habit of eating.
Yeah.
And so I made it like a bonding experience.
Yes.
Me and him, we eat together. He enjoys it. It's a fun thing for him to do. Because, before then, it was get the nutrients into him, get the protein into him, get the iron into him, get all this into him. And I was just trying to get him, and he just wouldn't eat.
Yeah.
Because it's not an experience for him.
Yeah.
And when I turned it into an experience, now he's asking me for food. And he's not even 3 yet. Now he's asking for the food. He enjoys dinner time. Before he was running away.
Yeah.
We don't get into his high chair. Now he's enjoying it. And because he's enjoying it, now he's eating.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
And that whole thing, as you keep saying, it's a mindset thing. It's got nothing to do with the biology of it. It's got nothing to do with the physicality of it. It was all mindset because his association with that's completely changed.
Exactly, and it goes back to mindset all the time. It's like Salah praying. It starts with the mind. Because if your mind doesn't wake you up for Fajr or keep you awake for Isha, especially in the summertime, you ain't going to pray. So the body does the action, but the mind tells the body to do the action. And that goes back to making it a non-negotiable. So Salah you do regardless of feeling. You do it regardless of feeling. And it goes back to cognitive reframing. Reframe in your mind, I must do this because my Lord has prescribed it for me. So you just have to do it. Yeah, you have to do it. And it's the same with eating. My eldest son, similar to yours, he's 5 now. He wouldn't eat. And we take him to City Restaurant, Radford Road.
Okay.
Really good. Kurdish brothers, mashallah. Shout out to City Restaurant, really good guys. He loved the food there. Because he loved the environment, and again, he loved the bonding.
And it got him into the...
Yeah, and he got him, now he's eating, alhamdulillah, really well now. He's eating like a teenager.
Because, I spoke to so many so-called experts,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Oh, it's just one of those things," or "Why don't you try this?" or "Why don't you do that?" And none of that stuff was working. And just intuitively, I realized he's just not enjoying the process.
Yes.
It needs to be a thing for him.
Food is a process, and that's a good word.
Yeah.
Food is an event, but we've made it.
And he wasn't an event for him; it was a chore for him.
Exactly.
And I changed it from being a chore to an
Yeah,
event.
exactly, and make it enjoyable. And you can only truly make it enjoyable when you do it communally.
Yeah.
Eat together. And again, I talked about this.
And he feeds me now. You see,
good.
It's like you put chip in my mouth, you eat it, and then I'll be like, "All right, you eat it," and then I'll feed him, and then it's kind of like a mixed thing.
That's wonderful. Father and son bonding.
Yeah.
And going back to that in the Quran, we've got so many examples of father and son. We've got Luqman and his son, Yaqub alayhi salam and his son. We got Noah and his son.
Tell me about your bonding experiences with your sons.
So I've got two sons. Yahya Yaqub, 5 and 2, and alhamdulillah, like becoming a father. We talked about.
Yeah, we were talking about this because we were talking about like I was saying like if I was separated from my son, I would just be like broken.
Yeah, it was hard, man. Absolutely. So initially it was very, very hard, but whenever I see them, just always in contact. Video calls, even like voice notes every day, video calls every 2 or 3 days. Alhamdulillah, thank God for video call.
Yeah.
Because my father was away from me when I was growing up as well. Like I didn't see him for the first few years of my life. He was in Pakistan, I was in the UK.
Yeah.
And I'd see him.
Yeah.
Very rarely.
Where's he now?
He's in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in the UK. But he came to the UK full time when I was about 10.
Okay.
So I saw him maybe, I lived with him for 1 year in Pakistan, but for the first 9-10 years of my life, I hardly saw him. He'd come, but very, very little. But now, even if I'm away from my kids, I can video call them. So I'm literally there in their lives in a way. And when I do see them on the weekends, bonding, just wrestling.
Yeah, tell me about like some of the unique bonding experiences that you've had as a like between the father and son thing. Like, what are some unique experiences you've had?
Okay.
Because I'm gonna use these.
Yeah. So unique father experiences, right? Okay. It's insect finding.
Okay.
I love that. I just literally all three of us squat. We squat really deep.
Okay.
Look down. Worms.
Okay.
My youngest thinks they're snakes. He calls them snakes. Slugs and worms. He thinks they're snakes.
And you just do that in the garden.
Yeah, in the garden.
Okay.
Out in the garden. Looks at millipede, centipede, trying to count their legs. Spiders.
Okay.
Ants, particularly. Feeding ducks.
And do they pick them up? The insects
pick them up and they put them to safety.
Okay.
Like looking at sticks and trying to picking up insects with sticks.
Okay.
And just telling them about Allah's creation.
Okay.
It's Allah's creation. You can't step on them.
Okay.
And then in circle of life.
Okay.
That the worm will get eaten by the bird.
Right.
And then it's last circle of life.
The food chain thing.
Food chain, yeah.
Okay. My son screamed yesterday at the top of the stairs. My son goes, "Dada!" I was like, "What?" He goes, "There's a spider."
Yeah.
And then it's like a whole event.
Yeah, exactly. So they're very curious, and I want to get them away from tablets and phones and.
Yeah, we haven't got him onto tablets and phones just yet, but my worry is that that's coming.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to keep. But it's you can't control it if they do it at school or if the grandparent does it. You can't control it. But I'm trying to hold that off.
Yeah, it's a good idea
because he's already addicted to the TV.
Yeah,
which is not good.
One thing I have non-negotiable whenever I eat with them, I say tablet away.
Okay.
Daddy wants to speak to you.
Okay.
Wants when there's food time.
Okay.
There's no tablets or any devices.
And do you do like restaurant trips? You go to like the restaurant, or would you just do it in the house?
No, restaurants or like cafes, stuff like that. So
you do like a coffee thing together.
Yeah, exactly. So and I get them to make my coffee for me. So I get a coffee.
Okay.
And then I get a jug of
for the experience.
Yeah, exactly. So my eldest loves to mix my coffee.
Okay.
And then he feeds me.
Okay.
Get him into get him into the habit of serving people and being hospitable. These are things which a lot of guys are lacking, and it goes back directly to masculinity.
Yeah.
A lot of guys think masculinity is about being being served.
Yeah.
Actually, a masculine mind is serving others.
Yeah, this is so interesting you bring this up because after the lockdown, people started inviting each other and all this kind of stuff, right? And I noticed that this side of my family, like my wife's side of the family, I noticed that but it happens on my side of the family as well. Actually, I tell a lie. It actually happens on both sides. One thing that I've noticed is what happens is the women are in the kitchen, right? They spend all day cooking the food. Yeah. The food comes out. The men get served by the women.
Yes.
The men eat first. Then the children eat, and the women eat right. They have to spend all day cooking the food, and then they eat last.
Yeah.
And when it was our turn to host, I was like, wait a minute, this is completely upside down.
Yeah.
So I made the food, right? I did iftar last year. Made the food. I said, right, the women and the children are going to eat first, right? And everybody just kind of looked at me. So then they ate first, and I said, the aunties, especially the aunties, they get such a raw deal out of it because they spend all day cooking, and then they eat last, and then they have to do all the cleaning.
Yes,
and,
I know.
So it's not fair on them. So they should be eating first.
Absolutely.
So I got them eating first, right? Got them eating first. Got the children eating first, right? And then the men eat less, and I got some weird looks. And now, alhamdulillah, they finally realized, and now they're all like, right, the women and the children are going to eat first, and the men are going to eat last, and they finally understood that that's how it's supposed to be. But they're just in such a habit that men are just supposed to be served because we're going out to war and all this. Like, well, we're not going out to war, are we? And we go out to work. Well, the women are working as well.
Exactly, and women have worked actually more than you. If you're at home watching TV, if you're just flicking through Sky Sports, watching TV all day, and they're in the kitchen, they've actually worked more than you. They should have the food first. And secondly, if we're talking about war, women and children get evacuated first.
Yeah.
So they get protected
Exactly,
first.
that's where it comes from.
So actually, feed them first.
Yeah. They're the most vulnerable. Take care of them. And it's so much harder for the woman because she's got to feed the kid as well.
Exactly.
She's got to feed herself. She doesn't get a minute to herself.
Yeah, and it goes back to Rajula.
Yeah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what's his definition of Rajul? He talks about Musa alayhi salam.
Yeah.
Qawiyun Amin. He was a strong, truthful person. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about a man, I know the feminists don't like this, but a man has a daraja over a woman.
Yeah.
Why though? Allah qualifies why. Allah, the chief architect, the manufacturer of us all, of our very DNA, of the multiverse, he's a manufacturer with a capital M. He knows our psyche better than anyone. He made us. He says, Al-Rajul al-Qawwamuna ala nisa. He is the my Arabic's not very good, but the meaning of the Quranic ayat is the Rajul. He's the Qawwam. He's the Qawi. He's the one who stands over the women, protects and provides. So
he takes care of them.
He takes care of them.
But it's, look, this dynamic that's changed. It's taken a man to come and change the dynamic.
Yes,
because the women have been serving for the last 20 years.
I salute you for that.
I salute you.
That's good. And it should be like this. And if I'm honest with you, I can cook better than most women. Because I learned it at uni, and it's an important skill to have.
Yeah. So Asian food. So the thing with my wife is, right. I'll be very honest with you. My wife, when it comes to presentation, way better than me.
Yeah.
So she can really create an experience. Like she'll present it really well, and she'll have like these little things and bits and bobs and all this kind of stuff, right? And so it's a whole experience. So you feel like you're at home. You feel like you're in a restaurant. The candles will go on, and or whatever. I'm not talking about just for me and her. Like for anybody, she's very good at like the presentation aspect of it. That's not me. I can't do presentation. But
taste.
If it's a curry, when it comes to taste, I got the process down.
Yeah, you can make a proper curry, yeah?
Yeah. I can make a chicken curry.
That's really good, man. Because I'll tell you mine. I don't want to give my secrets away.
Okay.
I've got a proper. I learned it from my mum when I was like 17.
Okay.
They went to Pakistan. I was the eldest.
Okay. Do you make spicy curries?
Yeah, spicy curries. I make very spicy proper. I don't use green chilies, but I use like chili powder.
Okay.
But you got to get the base right. The
Yes.
onion and garlic base.
Yes.
Is the key.
That's exactly what I say. If you don't brown it enough.
Yes.
You don't brown it enough.
It doesn't get thick.
Yeah. It just doesn't work.
The stew doesn't work.
Yeah, the flavor doesn't go in.
Exactly. So you got to brown the onions. Got to make them golden, bronzy brown.
Yeah.
With cumin and garlic and ginger chopped.
I need to taste one of your curries.
I'll make nice curries, and then tomatoes after that.
Yeah.
Tomatoes will make the base on top of the onions. So there's a layer.
Yeah.
There's 2 layers.
It's a whole process.
Exactly.
You know what a lot of people do? They just get everything. They just toss it into the pan.
No.
45 minutes. And like, you can taste the garlic separately. You can taste the chili separately. You can taste the meat separately. They're all just separate tastes, just having a fight in your mouth.
Absolutely.
It just doesn't work.
So there's a really good place. Shout out to Tasties, by the way. Tasties do a nice curry.
I don't know where that is.
It's in Redwood Road.
Okay.
I used to go. Like again, you can taste like the layers.
Okay.
And that's what you want. You want to taste.
Yeah, it's a whole process.
It's all processed, you know. And karai, like, I know it's unhealthy for you, but I do enjoy it once in a while. I had some yesterday, late night karai. I do enjoy it like once a month. Good experience. Your cheat day. I love it. I think it's the best food in the world. I think a nice curry is the best food in the world. You've got the meat, onions, garlic, sometimes potatoes in there. You can taste the cumin. You can taste the black pepper. You can taste the garam masala. It's amazing.
It's got like there's an experience to the whole thing. But the process is what creates the experience.
Yes, exactly.
A lot of people, like, when they're making the curry, they're just eating it. Like, they're just making it in a way. I've just got to get my iron. I've got to get my vitamin C. I've got to get my protein. And it's just like there's none of the beauty to it.
Exactly, and it's beautiful. Like I've had curries from different parts of the world, like Thai curry, Arab curry, African curry as well. but the Punjabi curry
Yeah.
is the best.
So you make it like a Punjabi
I
curry?
make it like a proper curry.
Okay.
Like literally onion base, then tomatoes, onion and garlic with cumin, and then tomatoes. Tomatoes is when the garam masala comes in, so it actually becomes a brown stew. And then you put the stock in, and then the fourth one. The fourth step is the meat, whether that's chicken on the bone, beef or lamb on the boat, or
And you cook it very slowly on a low heat.
So the juice,
My secret ingredient is cinnamon.
that's it.
My
So
secret ingredient is cinnamon.
simmering is very important.
No, cinnamon is my secret ingredient. Cinnamon.
Yeah.
A little bit. If I make it like a chicken curry, there's a hint of cinnamon that goes in, and haldi with turmeric.
Yeah.
I notice a lot of people don't use both of them, and I just put a little bit, and that kind of gives it the taste.
Turmeric I use a lot. So turmeric
Okay.
I use cumin. I don't use cinnamon. Cinnamon I use for tea, because cinnamon for me is like it's a spice.
Yeah.
But I use it for the tea.
I just use a hint of it.
Yeah, no, cinnamon's good. Oh, like you use like a cinnamon stick.
No, I just put a little bit of powder. Sometimes I use a stick, but I usually just put a powder in. A little bit of powder.
So for me, turmeric gives it the color, and but cumin gives it a taste. Honestly, cumin. Oh yeah, I forgot coriander.
Okay.
So you can have coriander actually.
For me, I can't actually in a spice cupboard. If I was just to look at them, I actually can't tell the difference between I can't tell the difference between like fennel and cumin and all of them.
Oh.
I have to have it labeled. If it's not labeled, I'm done.
Fennel's okay. Fennel's good for like dressing on the top.
Yeah.
Fenugreek, by the way, meti is amazing.
Right.
And they have it a lot in Arab cuisine.
Right. So do you cook with your sons then?
No, because we don't live together.
Okay, but
So-
if you would probably do something like that, it would be a nice experience.
Yeah,
for
it
them.
would be nice, definitely.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
my eldest is like learning with his mum,
Okay.
baking and
Okay.
like brownies and cupcakes. He enjoys that.
Okay.
But I think curry when he's a bit older, it's a good
Okay.
process and it's really good. There's another doctor, Dr. Salia. She's MasterChef winner a few years ago. She's written a book.
Right.
Dr. Salia Mahmood. Yeah, she's won MasterChef like a few years ago. She's a doctor.
I don't watch terrestrial TV. So.
All right, so she's written a book about food as medicine.
Okay.
Came out last year, and then she very importantly says it's very important to teach your kids cooking, especially your sons. Don't be the typical Asian household where only the girls cook. I know guys should cook as well.
You know, the thing that really stood out to me is when I got into my 20s, I was trying to watch all these movies that are all about how to become a man and all this. So you got the typical run. I mean, if you go to a guy and you say to them, I want to watch a movie all about like guys and stuff, they give you it's a very stereotypical list, which is usually stuff like Godfather, Goodfellas,
Rambo,
Rocky, Casino, all these kind of movies, right? And I remember watching Godfather, and there's a scene, right? I don't know have you seen Godfather?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
There's a scene
two.
there's a scene very early on where the men are cooking.
All right. Okay.
I don't know if you remember. Michael walks in and the guy.
Okay.
And
That's good.
I can't remember if it's Tessio or Solozzo, one of the two. I can't remember the guy's name. But he's like, come here and let me show you how to cook. You need to learn how to cook. Men need to learn how to cook. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point.
It's important. It's only Asian men who I would say are the least masculine, by the way.
Yeah.
Asian men are the least masculine.
In that regard, yeah.
Fragile masculinity, very fragile.
Very fragile.
The
Punjabi masculine is very fragile.
They're very fragile. It can be destroyed straight away. There's no. It's built on very weak foundations. It's built on, a bullying culture, almost an aggressive culture.
Punjabis are full of microaggressions, full of it all the time, all day long.
So it's and it's common in the whole Asia, and it's not built on strong foundations. So, who are the most celebrated chefs in the world? Who are they? Men. No, men.
Right, okay.
Aren't they? Like the ones that you know
But
about.
is that just because of their marketing, though?
Marketing's good, but as in 90% of commercial chefs are men. You go to most restaurants.
Is it just because they've got the stamina, though? Because
it could be, but cooking is important. Like you should know how to cook as a man, and you should be really good. You should actually be so good. You teach your family how to cook, and that's something I'm very. I take pride in that. I can cook. Because I look after myself. I make my own meals. I do my own meal prep. And because if you can only make fish and chips or oven food, whatever, you're going to end up
Microwave food.
you're going to end up eating out every day.
Yeah.
And you can't maintain a physique. If you want to maintain a physique, you've got to know how to cook properly. Know how to make curries.
And that's how you take care of your family as well. That's part of the taking care of them.
100%. Learn how to cook.
I love hosting, by the way. I don't get a chance to do it, but I actually love hosting. I love the thing is I don't like other voices. I don't like why don't you put this in your curry? Why don't you give them this? So for that reason I'll not do it, because I don't want all the extra running commentary, right? So when I know I can do it without kind of intervention and everything, then I'm like, then I just run with it. And then I love just like, having some guys come around, make anything, whatever they like, and then just doing the whole thing with them. I love doing all of that.
No, and I love foodie. I love hosting. because I love people's reactions and I love
Yeah.
serving them. Like I'm the eldest of 6 kids. I've always had that serving mentality, and
okay,
that's why I
okay.
went into medicine. Like,
So just to let you know, I do like curries. If you ever want to invite me, I love curry. I love aloo paratha. But I'll be happy with fish and chips even.
No. We need to sort it out. Definitely.
Yeah,
Let's.
inshallah.
No. That
One
sounds
day,
good.
inshallah.
If you like
inshallah.
curries, that's fine. Then.
One day,
Say no
inshallah.
more. Say no more.
Inshallah. I'll cook with you.
Why not? You
Yeah.
know, but to make a good curry though, I've got an electric hob.
How have
It's
you?
all right, but to make a proper curry,
Yeah.
you need fire.
Yeah.
Any cuisine, South American cuisine, you know, it needs fire, and especially South Asian cuisine. Needs a fire to get that real. I need ghee as well. I can make nice rice as well, like Nepalese rice.
Oh, is it?
It's called rice butiko.
Okay.
They make it with turmeric,
Oh, wow.
yogurt, turmeric, onions,
Oh, wow.
cumin. The rice is like a biryani, but it's made with yogurt.
Oh,
It's like a sour biryani. It's very nice. But the
I think my mum makes something like that, but I'm not sure. But I'll try it. My mum uses the yogurt in her.
yeah,
biryani as
yogurt's really nice. So if you yogurt and turmeric,
Okay.
and the turmeric kind of counterbalances the sourness of the yogurt,
Okay.
but it's really nice. And the rice is short grain rice,
Okay.
and it's quite sticky and wet rice as well, but it's really nice.
Okay.
It's dry. It's better than the biryani.
Okay. We're having this conversation about, we've talked about food and we've talked about all these other things. But I wanted to talk about like this kind of like, it's like it seems to be like this new phenomenon that we're all dealing with, right? This concept of like feminine men and masculine women.
Yeah.
It's happening, right? And there's you were asking me this question. I was telling you that there's some we had this conversation obviously outside of the cameras, but we were having this conversation about, like I know some really good women and they haven't been able to get married because and they're really, really good women, right? They're God conscious. They're genuinely very good looking. They have good careers. They've got everything going for them, but they're struggling to get married. And you were asking me like, how come then? What's wrong with them? Like, how come they're not married? And I've been saying that the reason why they're not married, my personal observation is there hasn't been a man that's been able to come along that can give them the sensitivity that they need, right? That they can trust the guy, and he can give them the sensitivity that they need without compromising his masculinity in doing that, right? He's got to be able to do that from a place of care and enveloping, right? And despite their challenges, they've not been able to find a man that can do that. Men are not capable of that anymore. I feel like it's not happening, right?
Yeah.
Or it's very rare. And like the thing that I'm noticing a lot though is that because this is like an energetic conversation. It's like a spiritual conversation.
Yeah.
It's not physical. I know there's this whole transgender movement. There's all this stuff going on as well, right? But on a spiritual level, on an energetic level, on an emotional level, there's a lot more masculine women now.
Yes.
And there's a lot more feminine men. And my personal description of this, I want to hear your description as well, of course. My personal description of a woman that's masculine is a woman that's always looking for a confrontation, that's always competing, that's always looking for a fight, that always wants to take revenge and punish you with a hammer.
Yes.
Right? Doesn't want to do anything with love and doesn't want to nurture. Wants to do the opposite of nurture. Wants to destroy with a hammer. That's what I call a masculine woman. And there's many of these now. This is happening a lot. And for me, a feminine man, what I call men that lack a spine, a man to me that's feminine is a guy that is incapable of making decisions.
Yeah.
But not only is he incapable of making decisions, if there's something that he wants, the only way that he can get his way is either to play victim,
Yes.
to be needy, to evoke sympathy in the other, right? Or is to be crafty, to weasel his way and get his way. But he's incapable of confronting the matter in the way that it should be confronted, right? That's what I call a feminine man. He's not able to assert himself and rise above. And I know in between those two things you get passive aggressiveness and all this. Like you do get passive aggressive men who once they didn't get their way and everything, they show their aggression, but it's still femininity.
Yeah.
And that's not to say femininity is passive aggressive, or femininity is passive, or femininity is not capable of leading. But to me, femininity is nurture.
Yes.
And masculinity is strength.
Yeah.
Masculinity is rigidity and strength and driving forward. And femininity is love and nurture and blossoming and these kind of things. They're different polarities, the different
Exactly.
energies, right?
Yeah.
But this phenomenon is now heading to the extreme.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for this such a big long lead up. I know. I'm sorry. I know. I can kind of feel like I'm tiring your eyes out, but it required such a large context to it.
I think you're right. The backstory is absolutely essential. So you said phenomenon.
Yeah.
I would say
Epidemic.
Yeah, pandemic. It's endemic, epidemic. It's all of them.
Yeah.
It's been slowly brewing for 30, 40 years. And I can explain it medically. I don't want to bore you.
No, absolutely explain it medically. Explain it medically.
So,
go far away.
You look at tap water and all the fluoride in there and men's testosterone getting lower and lower. Now the average 30-year-old man has the same testosterone his grandfather had 40 years ago. It's been declining. Men can't grow muscle. They can't lose fat. We're getting a skinny fat pandemic now. And what does testosterone do to you as a man? It drives executive function. So your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that executes. Men are completers of tasks. Men are the ones that execute. Men are the ones that, are doers. Traditionally. Why? Because we've got 17 to 20 times more testosterone than women have. But that's dwindling. Men's test levels are declining. Women's test levels... Yeah, exactly.
Declines.
So this talking about decision making. Men are becoming increasingly, indecisive. A man is supposed to lead. You can't lead when you're not decisive, because leadership requires direction. To be direct, you got to be direct. And you said weaseling your way out. Men are weaseling their way out because they're not direct. They are afraid of confrontation. And a lot of this can be trauma from childhood. We talk about childhood emotional neglect, complex PTSD. And now this extends into people pleasing and overextension. But looking at men now, biochemically, they're not the same as they were as their grandfathers were. So they say a man's testosterone now is what an average 30-year-old man now, his test level will be the same as a man who was 60, 70, 30, 40 years ago, dwindling down. On the contrary to that, women's test level is increasing, their estrogen levels decreasing. Women are
And what's the cause of the estrogen levels decreasing?
It could be many, many things, but I think one of the biggest things is estrogen and testosterone are competitively antagonists.
Right.
One increases, other one decreases.
Okay.
So their estrogen is decreasing because test levels are increasing. Why is test level increasing? Because they're in the corporate environment. They're rubbing shoulders with men. They're in this hyper competitive space where corporate progression.
Okay. So this is a spiritual, emotional
absolutely
contributor.
They're away.
It's not necessarily just a chemical contributor.
Exactly, because they're going back to spirituality. They're away from what we call in Islam their fitrah.
Yeah.
Their fitrah, their natural predisposition, their inner alignment. They're off kilter. They should be centrally aligned, which, like you rightly said, is feminine energy, feminine vibration in terms of nurturing, loving, caring. Women biologically nurture. We can't grow kids in a uterus. We can't do that. Women can. Women nurture, and they say you give a woman a single sperm, a spermatozoa, they will then nourish that. One egg, one sperm makes a ball of cells. Women naturally grow, physically grow. They naturally grow, and women are now delaying childbirth because of corporate career progression. But it's the whole thing. If you look at women now, short hair, tattoos, very masculine, very aggressive, the way they speak, confrontational. Men want peace. Men don't want constant agitation. Men don't want constant aggression and belittling. Yes, women have this tendency, and we know from the Prophet ﷺ, he told us about this jealous tendency, this ingratitude tendency. We know this. This is in Islamic text, by the way, about women's tendency to being ungrateful, their tendency to be short-sighted when it comes to what the husband has done for them, because they'll say he's done nothing for me. This is a hadith, by the way. So we know this, but what we're seeing now is opposite of that, where women are leaving femininity. They're becoming very masculine, very driven, very combative, very direct, shouting deep voices, and also if you look at women's physiques, they changed. Women, if you look at 1960s, were much more voluptuous than they are now. Women just nowadays don't have the figure that they used to.
Yeah.
Estrogen levels decreasing. So you get feminine men who are
not looking for confrontation,
absolutely
not combative. Yeah. And then the women are doing it instead. I've noticed like even I've been having this conversation with a few other guys as well. Like in the last few weeks, I've been having these conversations. Say like they've noticed, and I've noticed this too. They've noticed that the way the woman fights now, the women that they see in their circles,
Yeah.
the way the women are fighting, like they're arguing or debating something,
very masculine.
is
In your
in
face.
they're fighting in a way that a man would fight. A man would argue,
Yeah.
not in a way that a woman would argue.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I've noticed that the men are arguing in a way that women,
passive aggressive. So traditionally, women will be passive aggressive, sly remarks, gossiping. This is just their nature.
Yeah.
And our nature, good or bad, it's the way Allah's made us, would be to be confrontational, to be direct. So now men are taking
a bit more like dogs, though, aren't we?
So now men are doing sly remarks, gossiping, chatting, backbiting.
Yeah.
Passive aggressive, and women are doing the opposite. Women are becoming direct, confrontational, very boyish. Women are calling each other bro now. I've seen this, bro. A TikTok generation.
Yeah,
It's very
this guy said to me the other day, goes, this woman was arguing. She was like, "What is man gonna tell me? Man's gonna tell me?" Like, it's such a masculine way of having a conversation. And I've experienced this. I've experienced it even in the elder generation. I've experienced they want to argue with me over something. A woman, she's trying to argue with me over something, and she's arguing with me in a masculine way, and that in itself is so it's so paralyzing to my brain. I'm not able to respond to it, because if I start treating you like a guy, then this is going to be total destruction, isn't it? You're going to get a smack or something, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and that's not what you want it to come to. If you want to argue with me, you being a woman and me being a man, then we can have this argument and we can come to some sort of. We can get to some sort of resolution. But when you're acting like a man, I can't get to a resolution with you.
Women's empowerment
Yeah.
has been it should be called women's delusionment, because it's literally falsely told women, they've sold them a lie that they can be like men. They can't be like men because they're biologically this, X, Y, X and X, Allah's made you do. You can't change the chromosomes. You can't change that. You can't change your genetic makeup.
Yeah.
You can change your hormones, of course.
Yeah.
But you can't change your genetic makeup. You can't change your DNA structure. You can't do that. This is the way God's made you. Into genders, into Zoj. Zoj means pair.
Yeah.
Man and woman. Don't reduce and negate polarity by trying to be a man as a woman and being... Because that's a conscious thing, by the way. They're consciously trying to become like men. Men are subconsciously becoming like women, subconsciously, in the water, in the plastics, the way they carry themselves, what they eat, processed foods. So they're biochemically slowly being eroded down into a feminine state. Women are naturally putting on this masculine persona because they must put that on to survive in the workspace.
Yeah, talking about the surviving in the workspace, the thing that I've noticed the most is women that have experienced deep trauma. And whatever the cause of that trauma is, sometimes the trauma doesn't have to be something like sexual assault. It can be something else, but it can be very deep and very pierceful. It can be very significant to that individual. I find, apart from the hormonal imbalance, I find that they have so much trauma in them, they have so much fear in them, that what happens is that fear, it causes an evaporation of the femininity. And because they feel so afraid and they feel so vulnerable and they feel so at risk, the only way that they can protect themselves is by using masculine energy to protect themselves. And so really what we're saying is that I feel like what we're saying is that the reason why there are so many masculine women out there in the world today is because women are even more vulnerable than they've ever been, which is why we're seeing so much masculinity, right? And this goes back to what I was saying before about like these women that there's no man that's coming along and giving them the sensitivity that they need so that they can revel in their own femininity, right? A woman is not going to be feminine until she feels safe. Until she feels that I can, until she feels really safe, emotionally safe. She's not going to revel in her femininity, right? So all you're going to see is her masculinity. And that thing, I feel like in the last 20 or 30 years has gotten a lot worse. It's become more extreme. And it's become an epidemic, right? And with men, the narrative constantly seems to be, you are too brutal, you are too much of a danger, you are too much of a menace, therefore tone it down. But you can't get, a guy, that's just an emasculation of a man.
Exactly. And it's a slow castration of a man. Back in the day, they would castrate men. Actually castrating them. Physically chopping. Now they're castrating slowly. It's a slow process of castration. Chemical castration, emasculation, constant belittling. And masculine energy, in and of itself, is a beautiful divine thing. It's from God. Feminine energy, in and of itself, is a divine thing. It's from God. Because, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us when he blew into Adam and he sneezed out. It's actually, you know, we are divine beings created from God. Not that we have divinity, but we are our divine creation.
Yeah, we seek union with him.
Yeah, exactly. And we are at the apex of his creation. We you know, humans are the best sapient creation of God Almighty. So do not go against your God-given, divine-given purpose. Fitrah. Your divinely ordained North Star, your alignment. Don't go away from that. And goes back to polarity. Feminine women, masculine men. Masculinity has been really attacked. It's saying it's a bad thing. You can't say it's a bad thing. It's like saying a child being too childish. It's supposed to be childish. You know, the more he giggles and laughs and well, you know, it's supposed to be like that. This is his nature or her nature. You can't say you can be too masculine. You can't say you're too feminine. But in the West, masculinity is discouraged in men,
and femininity is discouraged in women.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of men are looking away. They're going abroad. They're going to places where feminism hasn't taken hold, like South America, like Southeast Asia. I know brothers going to Malaysia, where they get feminine women, women who can serve their husbands. Because this is what Islam teaches, by the way. A woman should be willing to be led, but a woman in the West, she's never been led. She's always tried to lead because she's been in a corporate job, medicine, whatever. She's always tried.
But we're at peak now, aren't we? This crisis, if you want to call it that, we're at the peak of this crisis. And the thing is, like, I've noticed, like, you know, you get a lot of people say, you know, we've got a marriage crisis, and we've got, you know, like the marriage crisis, we've got a marriage crisis because the apps are no good, or the way that the dating thing is working is no good, or arranged marriage has failed, or whatever. But actually, the marriage crisis is actually because of this masculinity and femininity crisis.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the actual reason why it's in crisis.
Absolutely, because polarity. Opposites attract. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we know Zoj. Zoj means pairing, opposite, you know, complementary pairing. And now there's all, instead of complementing, they're competing with each other. Men are competing with women, women are competing with men, and it's particularly damaging for women because
it's just as damaging for men.
No, exactly. But the thing is, men, at least they've got, you know, other avenues. You know, like men, they go away to get married, and you know, they got peace.
Oh yeah, in that sense, it's much more. Yeah, in terms of the marriage crisis, it's definitely more damaging to the women.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So women, you know, they're in their 30s now, mid 30s. They haven't found anyone.
You can't just jump on a plane and go to another country and go, I'll bring a bloke back. It doesn't work.
Yeah, so at least men can do that. And as a Muslim man, you can marry a Christian, a Jewish woman, a Catholic woman, you know.
For the woman, that's much harder.
It's much harder. So
she suffers more from it.
Exactly. So it's shooting women in the foot. And what does that go down to? It goes down to bad parental advice, I believe. So as a father, you should be telling your daughters to look for marriage much earlier because their biological clock is much more limited than men's. It's much more limited. So as a father, you should be advising your daughters, look, career is important, education is important. Yes, we're not saying it's not important, but you looking for a husband, that should be done in your 20s, not in your mid 30s or 40s, like a lot of women are.
I think they do try though. You know, my personal observation is, I think the women do want to get married in their 20s. I think the men don't have the maturity to lead them the way that they want, so they end up waiting for till their 30s and their 40s. I don't think they're against it, but that's been my observation.
No, anyway. I get that, but why are women going for men at the same age? So a 20-year-old woman should not be looking at a 20-year-old man. She should not be looking because
that could be a part of it. You
know, he's not ready at 20. She should be looking at 30, 35, 40-year-old man. What's wrong with that? They want everything equal now, though. 20-year-old woman wants a 20-year-old man, same salary, but when it comes to height and strength, you want him to be taller and stronger than you. So you'd be not the same. So we chronologically aren't the same, biologically aren't the same, genetically aren't the same. So we can't have the same in chronological age. So women need to get out of this bubble of saying it needs to be. I'm waiting for him to be 30 and mature. No. When you're 20. You're at the peak. You should get a guy older than you because that's how it's always been. Women have always been older, so younger.
But the problem. To be fair to women, the problem has been that, you know, the men that have been older, then they've kind of just they've taken advantage of their authority over the woman, and that's why it's kind of created these kind of created these kind of explosions, shall we say? It's created these casualties as a result.
100%.
So the problem is it has its own issues. But you're right. I agree with you that the issue is that actually the women have suffered in society as a result of this crisis of masculinity and femininity. Women are actually huge casualties of it.
Exactly. And it's having that self-awareness to say, you know what, feminism is actually damaging to us. It's killing us.
That's a hard conversation to have.
That is a hard conversation.
It is a hard conversation because it's so difficult to have that conversation.
Yeah.
You know, everybody resists that conversation.
Exactly. And Any ism is never good. Any ism and schism and ology is never good. Islam is a solution.
Yeah.
It's an economic solution. It's a social solution.
I say even capitalism is no good.
No, it's not good. It's not good. And $1 billion Muslim, great book again.
Yeah, it's not pushing capitalism, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I tweeted today,
Yeah.
capitalism is based on interest.
Yeah.
And we mentioned this off air.
riba,
Riba is based on credit,
yeah.
based on exploitation.
Yeah.
Banks lending you loans you can't ever pay back.
Yeah.
Sharks, loan sharks. Islam is a beautiful system of fair, equitable trade, whereby you give a loan in good faith, you receive the loan back, plus or minus inflation. Not interest, not APR and all these things, which are fixed at extortion rates of 25%. And look at IMF and World Bank. Just the interest on these loans is more than the capital.
Yeah, you just end up spending your entire time just servicing the debt. The only reason why all these companies are collapsing, like Wilco, for example. I mean, by the time this episode comes out, it will have been a couple of months by the time Wilco's already collapsed. But the only reason Wilco is collapsing is because they're having to spend so much money on servicing the debt. They can't keep the company running. That's why it's collapsing. That's why the high street is collapsing.
Yeah.
It's not because Amazon's come along and is this amazing internet retailer. That's the illusion that's been created. But the reason it's collapsing is actually because of riba.
Yeah,
It's direct answer. It's not they're rubbish at their marketing or they're rubbish. It's riba. Riba is the reason Wilco has collapsed.
100%. And it'll be really, really good to hopefully collaborate in the future and actually write a book. I want to write a book on psychology of money.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Honestly, I really want to.
We'll do it. We'll make curries together. We'll find you a wife. Well, we don't have to work very hard to find you a wife. I mean, they'll just come to you. We'll walk by the stream and then we'll write a book at the same time.
Sounds good. And anyone listening, drop me a DM. But seriously, the psychology of money, because spending habits or ingrained in psychology.
Yeah.
Spending is a habit. Going to the gym is a habit. Praying is a habit.
Yeah.
Ingrained in psyche.
Yeah.
But nobody teaches financial literacy. Nobody teaches us because it doesn't serve capitalism to teach people to start businesses. It doesn't serve them. If everybody started a business,
that's exactly what my book is about. Yeah.
Exactly. If corporate world. It teaches you how to be a very good corporate worker. Be in your office.
A cog.
Just work away.
Slave.
But you don't create value. You don't create wealth. You contribute to capitalist cog just moving slowly.
Yeah.
Read Engels, read Marx, read Weber. These, neo-Marxist philosophers, they talked about it. The bourgeoisie, the proletariat. That's why it's very important to read sociology, economics, philosophy. It's all tied together. Adam Smith's work on the wealth of nations.
There was a guy, John Taylor Gatto. He wrote this book about weapons of mass destruction and dumbing us down and all this. There was an interview that was done with him. It's like, I don't know if it's still on YouTube. It's like 5 hours long. It was a very long interview, so I wasn't able to watch all of it. And I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but he talks about how, I think it was Darwin who came along and then his son came along. Because they used to apparently they owned the Wedgwood Pottery Company or something. Right. So they were very wealthy. And they were like, the as you say, the proletariat, I can never pronounce that properly, but he's getting too wealthy and we've got to find a way of dumbing him down. And that's why they created this education system to keep the people dumb so that to keep things away, keep them distracted so they don't become too affluent. Exactly. That's why this whole thing was created like a few hundred years ago. Exactly. This whole concept of, Yeah,
exactly. Islam encourages business. It encourages critical
thinking.
Forbidden
riba encourage trade.
Exactly. And, business, trading, mutual benefit, value exchange. Because what is trade? Value exchange.
Yeah.
In the West, you've got these corporate jobs that are zero value.
Yeah.
They deliver zero LTV, long-term value. It's not delivered. It's just So if you look at post-Soviet, First World War. If you look at,
I think is that called postmodern?
It's post-Second World War Russia.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the 50s, 1950s.
Yeah.
So for me to buy meat, it was better to get everyone a job than to give people welfare. Okay, so for me to buy meat, it should just be a one transaction. I pick a piece of meat and I go to the person. I go to the cashier. So I go to the butcher, cut it, go to the cashier. But now I've got to pick the meat. I've got to ask someone to pick the meat for me. She then hands it to me. I'll go to the butcher. Butcher then hands it back to a second person. They then give the meat to me. Then I then give it to them. And then it's like they put transactions in between to give people jobs. Do you understand?
Yeah.
What would have been a simple transaction as now 5 steps.
Yeah, it's the same with distribution.
Yeah.
The thing that could have come to you directly First goes, like if you've got like a carpet or you're like a cupboard, first there's the manufacturer, then from the manufacturer it goes to the assembler, from the assembler it goes to the distributor, from the distributor it goes to the retailer, from the retailer it goes to probably the next guy, and then the guy who's going to install it for you.
Yeah.
And there's all these steps in between. But what you should have been able to do is go straight to the guy that's put the carpet or the cupboard together and take it straight off him, and that thing would cost you a tenth of what it should have done anyway.
Exactly, and it keeps people in jobs.
Yeah.
It gives people jobs.
Yeah.
A really good book by David Graeber called Bullshit Jobs.
Oh yeah, and the bullshit jargon. Yeah.
The bullshit corporate jargon to just make it seem like they're doing something important.
Of importance, yeah.
It's not important at all, and it keeps you dumb. Keeps you pacified.
Yeah, it's literally what my book is basically about. I don't use that word, but literally what the argument I'm making in my book is that we're so spent in our careers, we haven't got the time to think about doing anything else. You cannot have meaningful conversation because you're so spent.
Yeah.
You can't contribute to society because you're so spent. Yeah. You can't do anything because you're so spent in your career. You haven't got time to deal with anything.
And exactly, 9 to 5. Who created 9 to 5? Why does every job need 8 hours?
Yeah. Why does it need to be 40 hours a week?
Why
does every job need this particular come into the office and then do this all day long? And it's just nonsense.
Why can't you start work when you start work? Why can't you start work whenever you feel like starting work and finish whenever the work's done?
I'll tell you something really interesting. We're gonna have to wrap this up very soon. We've got about 3 minutes left, but I'll just to wrap it up very quickly. I'll give you wrapping up words as well. But like if you go back about say 300 years, do you know men only used to work about 3 months of the year? So you would work about 3 to 4 months. You'd make all the money that you need for the entire year, and that would be it. The rest of the time, you'd be doing like helping build the church and
living life.
You'd be doing all these other things,
contributing.
Now we have to. Now it's like
2 weeks holiday.
You don't even get 3 months off in the year. Like it's the complete opposite.
It's chained. People are chained.
Yeah, ball and chain,
But exactly. It's a capitalist clock keeps going.
Yeah.
It's a system you've got to see through. Islam is the solution.
Yeah.
And Islam ensures equity.
Yeah.
Equity of trade. Equity of transactions. Even non-Muslims are catered for.
Yeah.
They pay jizya, a tax for the protection. Muslim Spain thrived. Economically thrived. Muslim West Africa thrived. Kingdom of Niger, Mansa Musa, richest man who ever lived. It thrived. Middle East now, it's got so much wealth. If Islam was there, there'd be no poverty in the world. But let's hope people do take on the last message. And let's hope we can go back to our fitra in masculinity and femininity as well. Do you want to say any other final parting words? We've got about a minute left. Okay, so parting words is masculinity. It's all encompassing. Yeah. Be in shape, mentally, physically, spiritually, socially, economically. Be in shape, and the best blueprint for masculinity is the greatest man of all time, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Yeah. He embodied that in every way. He was a statesman, a warrior, a husband, a father. Peace be upon him.